company dismissed. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Lovely.
Well, hello and welcome to the SkyBlue History Podcast with me, Claudio Cardlino, and of course our club historian Jim Brown. We come to you fresh from a fantastic weekend at the CBS Arena. Legends Day, another home victory, a record attendance once again, and a dramatic last-minute winner that sent the SkyBlue faithful home smiling. And Jim, here's a stat that's started to catch a lot of people's attention. We've now recorded 4 doubles in a row, which sounds like a kind of run that might mean something historically. So we may need your expert verdict on that shortly. Coming up tonight, we'll be looking at Haji Wright's goal record today, revisiting the winning sequence against Middlesbrough and answering more of your listener emails. Remember to like and subscribe, review and leave us a comment. Wherever you watch or listen, your support really helps the podcast grow. Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, Claudio. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm quite enjoying our little spell at the top of the table again. It's a bit more relaxed than 2 weeks ago, that's for sure.
It certainly is, but it would have even been better if the Blue Noses had come up and beaten Middlesbrough last night, but we can't rely on them, can we?
No, you've got to do it ourselves, which we are. So, but anyway, let me start with this. It was Legends Day on Saturday, and a question that's been doing the rounds this week since, and it's this. Out of the former players you were chatting with on Saturday, it can only be the ones who were there on the day, which one do you think would you add to the squad that could add something a little bit extra? Now, I was asked this, and I gave my answer, and it'd be interesting to see if you come up with the same player.
Willie Humphries.
Totally not the player I chose.
You chose Darren Huckabee, I bet.
No. Well, why do you choose Willie Humphries?
Well, I think he was a right winger for a start. He was a fast, tricky winger. Frank Lampard loves playing with wingers. Whilst Willie didn't have the physique of the modern day wingers, he wasn't that dissimilar to Sakamoto in build. I think Willie's one of those players who would have been a success in any era, frankly. And as wingers are back in vogue, certainly at Coventry City anyway, I think he would be a wonderful, at his peak, obviously.
Yeah.
It would be a wonderful acquisition. So who did you choose?
I went for Dennis Mortimer.
That's a good one. Yes.
I just thought Dennis Mortimer at the age of 23 would have been magnificent in our team.
Yes.
Running up and down the pitch, creative, could tackle. The only he probably didn't score enough goals, but I don't think he needed to, because the teams he played in, there's always enough around him to score goals. But and also,
yes, the other player who'd obviously, you'd have to consider is Ian Wallace.
I was just about to say Ian Wallace.
Yeah, if you're playing 2 up front, Ian Wallace would be a great foil for Haji Wright, I think.
And then on Sunday afternoon, I was part of this new podcast called Where the Sky is Blue, where they do little vignettes, they call them. And we were asked questions at the Coventry Transport Museum. There's a load of questions about when your history of following Coventry City. But one of the questions was, which player from years gone by would you say is similar to a player that's playing currently? And I went with Ellis Sims and Mick Ferguson because I just thought 2 big strikers. Mick Ferguson was a bit Marmite, wasn't he? Because some fans thought he was great, some fans didn't care too much about him. I always thought Ian Wallace got more credit than Fergie did. And I told the story about obviously Bobby Robson saying he's not worth the money, then he scores 4 goals against them. And there's been times when Ellis has completely put the critics right, hasn't he, by creating a decent performance when you least expect it. So is anybody in the squad you could relate to a past player?
Well, I think Mick Ferguson was better in the air than Ellis Sims.
Oh, definitely.
I think at his best, Mick Ferguson was the best header of the ball in the English top flight for a while. And we're going to talk about one of his greatest performances in a few minutes, because one of the fans' memories mentions Mick. I don't know, really. I don't know.
I mean, you mentioned Willie Humphries already in Sakamoto, I suppose.
Yeah, I think Frank Onyeka does remind me of George Boateng. You know, he's not a Victor Torp in terms of skill, but he's got a hard edge to him, which has been absolutely crucial these last few games.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's a good shout. Right then, shall we crack on, as they say? Where would you like to start?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say something about Legends Day, actually.
Sure,
it was a wonderful day. And I know, you know, I've got close ties with the Former Players Association. You know, I founded it originally and was the chairman for 17 years. But I had a far more restful day on Saturday, being a guest, which was really nice. And I'd like to thank the Former Players Association, particularly Sarah and Billy, for the invitation. I had a great day. I was on a table with Liam Kelly and his wife, Alex, and with Max Biamu with his nephew, and a friend from France, and Kian Harris and his friend. It was a really nice table, and to be honest, I had more chat with Liam and his wife than the others. But it's the first time I've actually met Liam, and he's an absolute super chap, a really down to earth, humble guy, who was very interesting, talking about his career, and it looks like it's beginning to wind down at Rotherham now. His contract's up. But he was really impressed with the whole setup of the Legends Day. Obviously impressed with the way the team's playing. Hasn't been to many games. He said he came to the Middlesbrough game. That was his first game since he left. So he's very impressed with the team, obviously. So we had it was a massive turnout. I think they served over 1,000 meals.
Blimey, that's good.
But to be honest, it was a little bit too crowded. All the tables were a bit close together, and you had to really fight your way across the room. But yeah, it was a really good day. And you obviously saw the pitch presentation where all 50 guests or former players came onto the pitch. And there was some really interesting people who I hadn't met before, including Frank Musa, and Leon Best, Danny Fox, Martin Craney, some really interesting players, more and more coming from that younger generation. You know, those players have only stopped playing in the last few years. So that's a really good sign that those, you know, that group are being attracted back to the club. Maybe it's just because we're top of the championship, but hopefully not.
I know that Everton do something similar. Theirs is quite good as well. But there's not many clubs who do stuff like this, do they, on a regular basis, and to the size that we do it.
Yes. I think some clubs have like reunions of particular teams, you know, like the team that won the FA Cup or, you know, got a particular promotion. But yeah, we do a good job on it. And I think Frank was impressed. I heard him mention it in his post-match conference.
Yeah. I think you have to be impressed by it. And it's great to think that and it's just, in fact, it's a shame that there wasn't more people sat in the seats at half time, actually, because there was quite a few, but it'd been nice if few more
Yeah.
stayed out there. And
Yeah.
gave him a good round of applause. And I saw stuff like people saying, "Oh, aren't they just past players, not legends?" And I'm thinking, no, you can't just call it Past Players Day, Legends Day. That's what it's called. That's what they are. I think deservedly so.
Well, yeah, I hear that comment every single year. Somebody makes that comment, and I point out that to become a member of the Former Players Association, you only have to make one appearance for the club in a senior game, a senior competitive game, and you're eligible to become a member. They don't have lone players in the association. But for instance, Kean Harris didn't play very many games, but he made a comment, I think, on his Facebook page. He didn't want to be called a legend. There's no way he is a legend with Coventry City, but he was really looking forward to going to Legends Day. Yeah. If we restricted it only to true legends, there'd only be about 3 or 4 there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a great title, and well, it sounds the part, doesn't it, when you say Legends Day?
So we'll kick off with an email I had a few weeks ago, and this was not long after Terry Yorth died, and it's from a chap called Kevin Shannon, who was actually the author of the Tommy Hutchison book, and I think he's got another book planned in the future. But it's quite a long email, but it is quite interesting, and it does dip into the club's history, which will bring back a few memories. I very much enjoy the podcast, and look out for it when we have no midweek game. I particularly enjoyed your last edition as it focused on the life and times of Terry Yorth. Although obviously sad as it marked Terry's passing, it was good to hear about his wider life before and after his time at Coventry. One of the quirky features about his arrival was, I am pretty sure, that he signed on the Friday before a home game against Leeds on the Saturday. I remember a national newspaper covering the game and mentioning how Terry, seated in the main stand that day, was on his feet cheering and clapping each time his new team, us, scored against his old team, Leeds. Without looking it up, I think we beat them that day 4-2, correct? His reaction to our goals perhaps confirms the story you related in the podcast about him being glad to get away from Leeds. That said, it would be hard to understand why he would fall out with Jimmy Arnfield, who was the Leeds manager, who seemed the most affable of managers and who I think was still at Leeds when he signed for us. Terry was a big part of my favourite ever Coventry team, a team you've mentioned a few times on the podcast. This was the team of the late 70s. While he wouldn't get into my all-time Ultimate City team, he was certainly the best and most influential captain in my nearly 60 years of following the club. He had a real authority on the pitch and an impact on the way we played. He was the type of character who could be having a bad game himself, but would still have the confidence to praise, cajole, and even criticise his teammates in order to get the best out of them. That season is one that I'll never forget. I was 19 or 20 at the time, and every game was an event to be savoured. We played such wonderful, exhilarating football and would simply blow teams away. The nominal formation was 4-2-4, but in reality, with the 2 fullbacks pushed up the field, we really played 2-4-4. Terry and Barry Powell in midfield would run their legs off every game, supporting attack and defence. And it was this season that I think you could really see Terry's qualities as a player, but even more as a captain. I've mentioned my Ultimate City 11, and unsurprisingly, many of the players from this season would feature in it. Both fullbacks, Bobby McDonald and Graham Oakey, would be there, as would Hutch and Ian Wallace. Gary Gillespie would also make my all-time team, and I think he played some minutes that season. Due to his grace and power, Cyril Regis would be my number 9, so Mick Ferguson would only make the bench. Still, to have 6 players from that team in an all-time 11 squad shows just how good they were. Many people, when telling you about their first match, then go on to tell you their most memorable game. I'm going to do it in reverse order. In the season in question, we had that wonderful and frequently mentioned Christmas game against Norwich that we won 5-4. It was a game that perfectly summed up the excitement of the games and our mad, all-out attacking style. However, for me, the best game I ever saw us play was the midweek victory that we had earlier in the season over Manchester City. They arrived at Highfield Road, I think top of the league, but certainly unbeaten. They had a wonderful team. In the first half, they proceeded to give us a football lesson. We were lucky to go in only 2-1 down. I don't know what Gordon Milne, my all-time favourite manager, said at half-time, but it certainly put magic in the boots of the players. We were inspired and launched wave after wave of attacks on Joe Corrigan's goal. The Man City players couldn't cope, were becoming increasingly desperate as the half wore on, trying to hang on to their lead. I think 6 or 7 of them ended up in the referee's book that night. Eventually, our irresistible pressure told, and I think it was Mick Ferguson who got our equaliser. The dam was broken now, as were Manchester's players' spirits. A goal from Ian Wallace and a further one from Fergie, which completed his hat-trick, cemented a famous 4-2 win. I shall never forget that game, in particular that awesome second half. I honestly believe that we would have beaten peak 1970s Brazil that night. Pelé, Jairzinho, Rivellino, et al. Such was the sheer energy and quality of that performance. One of the things I was most looking forward to when meeting up with Hutch was talking about that game. To my immense disappointment, he didn't remember it. He obviously remembered the season and could talk about that Norwich game, but of my favourite ever match, not a flicker of a remembrance. It was actually one of my all-time favourite games as well, Claudio. And Mick Ferguson was up against the England centre-half, Dave Watson, that night. Yeah. And he absolutely destroyed him. And I can still see the fourth goal. I think it was the fourth goal, which is a Mick Coop, one of those deep, long crosses that Mick Coop used to do. And Ferguson rose like a gazelle he must have been a foot above Watson in the air to head past Corrigan. Fantastic. So although that remains my all-time favourite game, if I had to pick a moment from a match, it would be the 90 seconds after Victor Torp's winner at Wembley. I'd never seen us come from 3 down before. Well, Kevin, nobody has, because Coventry have never done it.
Yeah.
To do it in an FA Cup semi-final against United and to then take the lead defied belief. I was there with 2 of my sons and have never experienced a feeling in my life like that before or since. It was such a surreal feeling of total euphoria. Sad to say, really, that out of all of life's joys, it is a moment at a football match that did that to me. However, it shows the power of football and our football club. I'll never forget the image of one of my sons just standing with his hands on his head, a look of incredulity on his face as to what had just happened. And when VAR had to intervene and take away the magic, did Haji Wright's toenail protruding beyond Wan-Bissaka's body really constitute seeking an advantage as laid down by the offside law? You can tell I'm still not over that travesty. I think it wasn't only our club that lost out that day, but football as a whole, as that comeback would surely have gone down as the greatest ever in the FA Cup and have given the great old competition the shot in the arm that it needs in these Premier League dominated days. There's still more. My first ever game was one that I've told you about previously, as you used my account in your book, The Sky Blues. It was in February 1967, the promotion clash between City and Carlisle. I didn't come from a Coventry family. My mum and dad had arrived in the UK from Ireland in 1942, and by the late 40s had settled in Coventry. my dad getting a job as a miner at Binley Colliery. However, both of them attended games at Highfield Road in the 50s until the club slid into the 3rd and the 4th division, which caused them to lapse. I loved kicking a ball around from an early age, so it was only natural that I'd take an interest in our local team. I'd see people from the village on a Saturday decked out in sky blue, and I'd be reading about the goings-on at the city, and with Jimmy Hill in charge, there was a lot of goings-on in the Telegraph. I started to badger my dad about taking me to Highfield Road. He was quite resistant to going back. It took me a while to wear him down. In the end, my persistence paid off, and he agreed to take me. From the first footstep inside the ground, I loved it. The sights and the smells and the electric atmosphere just captured me. And from that first game, I was hooked. I knew that being at the football was where I wanted to be, and that Coventry City, from that point onward, would be my team. I love the sky blue colour of the kit. To this day, I still think it's wonderful that we play in such an optimistic colour, a reminder of summer and of holidays. I love the little sky blue cars that circled the pitch. I love the fact you could buy tea or a pie from young lads dressed in sky blue who circled the pitch. I love that the stewards all wore sky blue cow gowns. I love the sight of thousands of people with sky blue scarves, hats, rosettes, and some had sky blue rattles. If Coventry City was to be my club, then sky blue was to be my colour. I have to say that I both loved and feared the crowd in equal measure. We stood on the right of the goal at what was the covered end, soon to become the west end. The noise from the terrace reverberated off the tin roof before rolling out towards the pitch. I'd never seen so many people gathered in one place before and experienced the roar that 28,000 people could generate. When the game was on and City came anywhere near the goal, the roar was also accompanied by a crowd surge that would lift me off my feet, my dad keeping a grip on my coat and deposit me yards from where I started. This I both loved and hated. The game itself is mostly a blur. Not surprising, I was only 9 at the time and the event was nearly 60 years ago. However, I do remember Carlisle taking the lead. This didn't dim my optimism. In my young mind, there was an inevitability that we would come out on top. We were Coventry City and we were invincible. Sure enough, this proved to be true in this game and for the rest of that season at least. I have a feeling that all the goals came at the covered end. Very true, they did. With, I think, the City ones from Machin and Gould, who was to be my first City hero, simply because the programme stat showed me he scored lots of goals. Excuse me. The pivotal memory of that game certainly came at the covered end. There is a reason why I've never forgotten the name of the Carlisle goalkeeper from that day. Alan Ross was very much took exception to Bobby Gould's liking for charging the keeper when they were stood with ball in hand, something that was allowed in those days. On this occasion, his temper got the better of him. His single punch to the head would have made Henry Cooper proud, and as the referee sent him from the field, he marched past Gould's unconscious body, laying prostrate in the penalty area. Was this what happened every game? If so, it was going to be even better than I thought. A narrow win from behind then, something we have done again this week. Well, and this week. No, not this week. 2 weeks ago. Perhaps it is an omen for our impending promotion. My dad must have seen something he liked as we went to every other home game that season that his working shifts would allow. So we were there as part of our record attendance against Wolves and there again to see us clinch the title against Millwall. Another omen, as we also beat them again recently. That first game had such a big impact on me that I thought everyone would be infected with the sky blue bug in the same way that I was by simply going to a match. I remember the following season bringing a mate along with us. By that time, my mum and my sister were regulars too. So to what would have been a first division game, and being astonished when he told me he didn't really like it. Stephen Watson, shame on you. Good times, bad times, I've never regretted becoming Sky Blue. I always feel that because our downs can be really low, that our highs mean much more to us than the fans of the so-called elites. A Coventry Cup win, a Palace Cup win, even a Leicester Cup win means so much more to the likes of us. It probably explains the Man United fans' desertion, both after Torp's goal and after their penalty shootout win. I doubt they'll ever feel the euphoria of our Wembley wins or our promotions, certainly not in the modern era when the same few clubs dominate. Yes, they will shout and cheer and feel good, but will they really feel as euphoric as we do on the comparatively rare occasions that we achieve something special? I don't think so. Apologies for a long email, just to say I completed one season, 1921-22, on the SkyBlue archive. Thank you, Kevin. I was very slow. It took me a long time to enter all of the details. I'm sure someone more tech savvy than me would have been quicker. I'll take a break from it now, as I want to try and finish a book of city-related short stories I've been working on. I intend to find out details of some of the players from that season. Despite their poor form, they only just dodged relegation on the last day of the season. There was only a small pool of players used, with the same names cropping up game after game. In an odd way, it seemed like I'd got to know them. Best wishes, Kevin.
That's a great email.
Isn't it?
Some great memories there. That's and Terry Arth joined then. That was 76, 77 season?
76. Yeah, 76.
Now, me and my dad never went to that game because we'd just moved back from Lower Gornal to Warwick, to the King's Head. And it was the season we founded the, I think that's right, yeah, 76. Yeah, we came back 76. Yeah, definitely. And it's the summer, obviously the hot summer, and it was the day the weather changed. There was an almighty storm that weekend.
That's correct.
It's when the weather broke. It was horrendous. Because I can remember.
It was very, very heavy rain during the match. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can remember we were in the pub and the water, because it's in the Saltisford, anybody who's local who knows it in Warwick, and the water was just gushing down the Saltisford all the way down towards the Birmingham Road.
Really?
And we never went to the game because we just recently moved and we got people coming to visit. And of course we go and win, which is typical. But, and I mean, I reckon I only missed about less than 10 games in about 15 years at home, and that was one of them.
Wow.
So,
yes, and Terry Yorth and Ian Wallace and Bobby McDonald were all paraded on the pitch before the kickoff.
Yeah, well, I never saw it, Jim.
Yeah. They're all signed on the same day or same week, certainly. So you mentioned at the start the couple of records that have fallen since we last spoke.
Yeah,
because we haven't had one for 2 weeks, have we?
no.
But of course, we had the famous, which will become famous, I'm sure, the win over Middlesbrough on the Monday night, which was the start of our run of four wins, and took us back to the top of the table. And I did mention in my column the fact that this is now 7 wins in a row over Borough. They must be getting absolutely sick of us. That run started with the playoff second leg victory at the Riverside in 3 years ago, and since then we've beaten them 3-0 at home, 3-1 away, 3-0 away, 2-0 at home, 4-2 away, and now 3-1 at home. And I did note that Haji Wright has now scored 6 goals in 4 appearances against Middlesbrough, I believe.
Really, that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I think it's 6 in 5 actually, to be fair. And since then, obviously, Haji has knocked in another 2 goals to take his total to 47 for the club, 43 of them in the league. And I did note that he is now in the top 10 of leading goal scorers in the post-1967 period.
Wow, can you imagine
So in
if
the
he was...
last 60 years, he's up there in the top 10. He's now got 43. He's recently overtaken some real top players. He's overtaken Victor Gyökeres, for instance, who's on 41, Bobby Gould, Neil Martin, Peter Unlove, Gary Thompson, Ronnie Rees, and he's now equal 8th in that list with Terry Gibson.
So, can you imagine if Hadji was actually any good?
Yes.
He makes fools of people with his stats, doesn't he, really?
He does. He does it. And the other stat is that out of that top 10, he has got the best minutes per goal of anybody.
Yeah, and I think that will surprise a lot of people because yes, it's weird, goal scorers. They are weird because I've said this before. I think Dion was similar, where he'd score a load of goals and then he'd be blank for a few games, then he'd score another load of goals. And when you weigh up the ratio, it sounds pretty good. 1 in 2.5 games, 1 in 3 games. It's pretty good, that. But obviously, strikers don't operate that way, do they?
No.
It's not an exact science, is it?
No, it isn't. You remember how many games it took for Max Biamu to score his first goal, and then he hit he just went mad after that. And Victor Gyökeres noted that at the start of the 21-22 season, the first season we came back to Coventry, he scored 9 goals in his first 11 games, and then went, I think, 11 or 12 games without a goal.
Yeah.
So he went through it. Matt Godden had his dry spells. You've mentioned Dion; he had his dry spells.
McNulty had a dry spell, and then he got 28.
Yes, yeah. So, and should we just mention the attendance? I think you mentioned record attendance, 31,516, and a record crowd at certainly for a Coventry game at the arena. Somebody did point out that there was a women's international that got a bigger crowd, but we're just talking about Coventry City here, aren't we?
Yeah.
So that crowd topped the Middlesbrough crowd from last season, which was the record that beat the old Chelsea Cup tie record. So, and it was the largest crowd to watch Coventry City at home since 1981, when we had 35,000 against West Ham in the League Cup semi-final.
That's pretty good.
It is, isn't it? It is.
It certainly is.
So moving on, the next question I had came from our old friend from Leamington, Martin Higgins, friend from the old Priory coaches days. He asked me about 3 lesser-known players who played for the club, to tell him or tell our listeners a little bit more about them. The three players he mentioned were Keith Osgood, Jim Hagan, and Willie Boland.
Yeah.
I don't know what your memories are of Keith Osgood, but he did arrive in that famous 77-78 season just after Christmas. He was a centre-back, signed from Tottenham, I think for about 100,000. Is that right?
Yeah. He was, personally for me, he was a kind of not quite as good as Gary Gillespie, central defender.
Yeah, he wasn't as good on anything like as good on the ball
No,
as Gary.
he looked like him.
Did he?
I thought, didn't they both have curly hair at one stage?
They did at one stage, yeah, they did. And he was no relation to Peter Osgood.
No.
He played that season. He only got into this side when there was an injury to either Jim Holton or Mick Coop, who were the regular centre backs. But he played 19 games that season. The following season, he only played 11 games. The last of which was at Christmas against Wolves. And I think, Gary Gillespie was then really emerging, and he was a regular at centre back, and then Jim Hagan came into the side after Christmas, and Keith Osgood left for Derby in October '79, and sadly he was a regular in the season they got relegated from the First Division. I don't know if you remember that very poor Derby side.
Yeah.
And Barry Powell was there, I think, at the same time.
Because I think it was only us and Derby were the only two Midland clubs who played the whole decade, I think, in the 70s in the top flight.
Yeah, that would be right. That would be right, yes. So he later played for Orient, Leyton Orient and Cambridge United. Not a memorable former player, to be honest. He's never been to a Legends Day. I don't know if he's a member, but moving on to Jim Hagan. Jim came from Larne in Northern Ireland. Again, a central defender, although he could play at fullback as well. He played 15 games in '78-9 when he took over from Osgood. And then he went on loan the following season to Torquay. And then in the end of that, the '79-80 season, he went to the USA and played for the two clubs which Jimmy Hill was involved with, Detroit Express, Washington Diplomats. He also had a spell after that in Hong Kong with Seiko. And in '81-2, he came back to Highfield Road. I think we re-signed him, and he played just three games as backup for Paul Dyson and Gary Gillespie. One of which was that miserable FA Cup loss at West Brom. Do you remember that when
the 2-0?
Yeah, Cyril scored, didn't he?
Yeah, their second goal was a deflection, wasn't it? Although Hugh Johns he loved it when West Brom scored against Cov. I think it was Hugh Johns doing the commentary. It was it was an awful day as well, wasn't it? I remember being muddy pitch and everything.
Yeah. Hugh Johns, he could make mincemeat of the English language, couldn't he? Do you remember? He used to, I think he described one of Brian Alderson's goals. Brian had a terrific shot, didn't he?
Yeah.
And instead of calling it a thunderous shot, he called it a thunderhouse shot.
That's proper Alan Partridge, isn't it?
Yes.
Chocolate football.
But he went to St Andrews, joined Birmingham City, and he played over 160 games for the Blues.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember obviously Jim at our club, and he was quite a rugged, decent player. Actually, I used to think he was anyway. But I do remember him probably more at Blues because of the amount of games he played.
Yes, I bumped into him at when we were playing at St Andrews, and I don't think whether he was a guest of our former players association or theirs, but I had a nice chat with him. Really nice guy. Still said, I follow the SkyBlues results, and very keen on watching City. And I think he spends most of his time in Spain these days. I think he's got a house on the Costa something. And then, so the third one of Martin's requests was Willie Boland. He came a bit later. He came through City's youth policy. It wasn't called the Academy in those days. So in the early 90s, I remember watching a youth game with him and a lad called Gavin O'Toole, who never made the first team, but the two of them made a really good midfield in the youth team. He made 71 appearances for the Sky Blues over 7 seasons. Never, ever a regular.
No.
Just came in when there was an injury or maybe a loss of form, played a few games. When the injured player was back, he would drop out. But he had a really nice style. He rarely gave the ball away in midfield. A good, steady passing midfield player. He never scored a goal.
No,
so, he's more of a defensive midfielder. So he played from 92 to 99. So he'd have played under quite a few managers.
Yeah.
Certainly I think Bobby Gould brought him into the side. And he'd have played through Phil Neal, through Big Ron and Gordon as well.
It's interesting that he was there for so long, didn't really play a lot of games. I mean, nowadays they'd be moved on after 3 seasons, wouldn't they?
They would. Yeah, they would. You're right.
But they obviously, in those days, you couldn't really afford to do that because it wasn't as easy to shift players around, I don't think.
Yes. I seem to remember his best spell was when that 93-94 season, where he had a really good start under Bobby Gould.
Yeah.
And he was very impressive in midfield. He joined Cardiff in 1999. Yeah. He made over 200 appearances for them, obviously in the lower divisions, but he later played for Hartlepool before he moved back to Ireland.
Yeah, he was a tidy player, wasn't he? But like you say, lacked goals as a midfielder. That was his.
Yes. Right. Another email from Andrew Gray. It's not as long as Kevin's, don't worry. It is quite interesting. It picks up on something we discussed a couple of weeks ago about Nigerian players. A very quick email to say thank you to you and Claudio for yet another marvelous episode of the History Podcast. It's great that you guys do this, and it preserves the history and stories for the future generation of fans, which is so important. It also brings back lovely memories of being told lots of the history of our great club as a young kid by my grandfather, who used to skip going to John Gulson School in the 1930s in favour of going to afternoon games at Highfield Road to watch Harry Storer's team, and in particular his idol, Clary Borton. He passed his love of the Sky Blues to me. I started going myself in 1992 and still do to this day, now taking my 7-year-old son too, who I'm pleased to report is as Sky Blue mad as I am, despite the fact we have to travel to games from Dorset, where we live. Goodness me.
That's a trek, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. What I actually wanted to email you about was the last episode, number 59, which did make me chuckle, as I think I might have be one of the very few Sky Blues fans, maybe even the only one, who actually saw both Latif Elford Aliou and Basala Sambu represent the club. So we were talking about these two. They're both born Nigeria. They both only made one appearance. He goes on to say, I was at the EFL Trophy game at Hewish Park, Yeovil in 2015 when Latif came on and promptly missed a penalty in the shootout, as did Sam Ricketts, as we lost. I think it was the only appearance in the first team for another youngster, Ivor Lawton, who also came on that night, if I remember correctly. Do you remember Ivor?
Very well, no, I've got to say, not really. I
No.
remember the name. I don't know. Yeah, but
No.
not.
I do remember leaving that night and thinking surely we couldn't sink any lower than being knocked out of the EFL trophy on penalties by a team in the league below us in front of a tiny crowd. From memory, there was only just over 1,500 fans there, and a couple of hundred of us City fans at the most behind the goal at the end where the penalties were taken. Little did I know. Well, that would be probably as nearest football league club at the time, living in Dorset.
Yeah, I
It's
think
only just only over the border into Somerset, isn't it?
yeah.
Probably 40 minutes from the south coast to Yeovil.
So really, not much of an effort.
No, no.
It must take you 40 minutes to get to the CBS from where you live.
Yes, it takes me that, yeah. Although I didn't see his one first team appearance, I did see Basala Sambu play for the SkyBlues under-18s in an FA Youth Cup tie at Bournemouth in 2014. He was totally anonymous that night, looked as though he'd never played football before in his life, and I was utterly astonished a while later when Everton gave us actual money for him. I couldn't believe it. That night was notable for other reasons, though. I can't remember the whole team, but aside from Sambu, I do recall the City side contained a number of lads who would go on to play in the first team. Reece Charles Cook, the Kelly Evans twins, Kian Harris, Ben Stevenson, who scored one of our goals, George Thomas, and Jordan Shipley. The main reason for me going that night, though, was to see what all the fuss was about with this young kid I'd kept hearing about from Wycombe, who was captaining the City team, James Maddison. He scored twice, was head and shoulders above anyone else on the pitch, as the Sky Blues inflicted a 3-2 defeat on a Bournemouth side that I don't think had lost all season. And I definitely understood afterwards what the hype was about. Anyway, thank you again for all the brilliant podcasts. Keep up the good work and play up Sky Blues. That's a good one, isn't it?
That's really good. Really good. It's interesting because Stephen Presley said about how good James Maddison was, because he was a very slight young lad, wasn't he? Nothing to him, but he had a great attitude, from remembering what Stephen said. And it'd be nice to get him back if he got promoted.
Yes. Is he's got an ACL, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd be fantastic, wouldn't he? I doubt the club would buy another player who's had an ACL, though.
Well,
I was talking about it to Max because he had two on Saturday, and he said that 20 years ago or even 10 years ago to recover from an ACL was very, very difficult. He said, but the support that he had from the Coventry physios and the whole setup there for recuperation was the difference. That's what enabled him to return. And he mentioned Jody Jones had two,
three in the end.
Three in the end, yes.
Yeah.
Did Matt Godden have one? There's somebody else, wasn't there, of that era?
There's quite a few of them. I felt at the time. There's definitely others.
Yeah. Tony Andrew was another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Andrew Gray. That's a lovely one, isn't it?
It is.
Really, really nice. And the last one is from Jeff Cowley, who goes back a bit further. If you remember, Jeff was the one that asked about the 50-51 season and our collapse after Christmas, and was hoping that it wasn't going to happen this season. Well, it began to happen, didn't it?
Yeah, hopefully it won't happen now.
No.
Yes, it's
yeah. So yeah, Jeff's been a fan for longer than me. I had to listen to the latest podcast. I'm very interested in it. In my late teens, I worked in the bus offices in Harnell Lane East. We hired a bus at very short notice to take us to White Hart Lane for the FA Cup second replay against Portsmouth in March 1963, and also to the infamous Peterborough match a year later where we lost 2-0, among others. One thing I realised in the late 1950s and early 60s was that City didn't convert all that many penalty kicks. Mick Kearns seemed to miss more than he scored. Why he was given the job, I don't know. Billy Marscuff missed 2 in the same match at the Cop End, but we won 2 anyway, I think. Ron Hewitt was good at it, placed the ball on the spot, 2 steps back, and then wham, into the back of the net. Ronnie Farmer got the job later. I think I'm correct in saying he only ever missed 1. Yeah, that was at Millwall in 64 when his shot hit the post. So he could honestly say that no goalkeeper had ever saved one of his penalties. Ronnie Farmer still holds the record for the most penalty kicks by a Coventry player, successful penalty kicks.
Oh, I just got the impression that in the old days you didn't get so many penalties for some reason.
No, you didn't. But see, Ron was around as a penalty taker for about 4 or 5 seasons. So,
right, okay.
Yeah. Happy memories. I was there when we beat Aldershot 7-1. That was 1957, I think. And yes, I remember Roy Kirk running from the West End goal and blazing the ball over the bar at the Cop End. Just some context to that. That game against Aldershot, the 7-1, our goalkeeper, Jim Sanders, who the ex-West Brom, he played in the 1954 final for West Brom against Preston. Jim Sanders broke his leg that night and Roy Kirk went in goal, obviously the days before substitutes. And we got a penalty, which would have made it 8-1, I guess. And Roy Kirk raced down out of the goal at the other end, down and took the penalty and blasted it over the bar. So that's us up to date with our sort of listener emails.
They are tremendous, because I mean we do get other emails just saying thanks for what you're doing, but if you want to leave, please do send us your memories or certain games you remember, or your first game, or unusual games, anything.
Yes. An unusual game is always entertaining. That reminds me that the archive website, skybluearchive.com, is up and running. It's getting a lot of interest. We had a lot of interest over the weekend after it was mentioned in the program on Saturday and by myself in my little speech at Legends Day. We're still adding more and more data. There's a lot still to add, particularly on the players' profile side, but all the matches are there now. And we're just going through tweaking some of them. We found a few minor errors. We're correcting those. We've also made an appeal. I've made it here, I think, for volunteers to help us with anything really. We've had two really interesting people join the group as I would say helpers, volunteer helpers. First of all, a lady who is the archivist at the Jaguar Motor Museum, the Heritage Centre at Gaydon, is going to give us advice on curating museum storage and that sort of thing, and also getting funding, because we're becoming a charity as soon as we can, and being able to apply for lottery funding and various other grants as a charity, which is really exciting. You know, it will give us a lot more power. And the other volunteer, I'm sure you won't mind me mentioning his name. His name is Jim Lindsay, who is one of the he's one of the serious collectors of Coventry City replica shirts. He has a collection, he tells me, of over 500 replica shirts. So eat your heart out, Claudio. Your measly little collection behind you just can't hold a candle to him.
I think Miles has got 90, minimum 95 shirts. I'm thinking that's a lot.
Yeah. And Jim's got a lot of match worn shirts, as well as, you know, just buying the 3 kits every season. He's got, and his collection goes right back to, you know, the early 70s. I was able to show him one he didn't have, which was a match worn shirt of George Curtis's from 1967. Which he was very envious about. But he's going to be a really key member of the group, because he's going to fill in some of our gaps in shirt. We've got a pretty good collection. I think we've got 50 or 60 shirts at the moment, and he's going to help us fill in some of the gaps with some of his swaps. And also, if in the future we do have a museum or an exhibition of shirts, he's very happy to lend us some of his shirts for that.
That's Miles has said the same. He's got a Zayas match worn shirt, the purple one, which was properly, obviously marked up and everything, but it's long sleeve as well.
Oh wow!
And I saw it the weekend. It looks brand new. It looks incredible.
Whose shirt is it?
Zayas.
Oh, Zayas, yes.
So being the first Brazilian and all that in the Premier League, he said that, I said, well, eventually, if you do get the museum, that's something you can loan, he said. And then he's got that many shirts, he can swap them around.
Right. So what colour is it?
It's the purple. Is it hanging behind me? I can't see it now. It's the purple one, the purple striped away one.
Yeah, yeah. Where would he have worn that? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good point.
Because we didn't wear. Well, A, he didn't play that many games, and B, he didn't play. We didn't play many games in that shirt, did we?
I wonder if it was a cup game. We played it in a cup game at all.
I'm just gonna have a look.
Yes,
he played at Chelsea.
I think
His
that's the
third
game.
He scored at Chelsea. We probably wore it that night. Blackburn, a 5-1 defeat. We definitely would have worn it at Blackburn, and at QPR he played. So
he said that he knew Miles was a Cov fan, and when he left the club, he just brought it into where he worked and gave it to him.
Wow! How did Miles know him?
Just from coming into this shop, I think. I can't remember what shop it was. Yeah, he just made it known he was a Cov fan. I think he's got a Roy Wegley one as well, the green and black one signed as well. So yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't Chelsea. We played in SkyBlue at Stamford Bridge that night. I remember that because Rude Hullet played. We got a really good 2-2 draw. Yeah, we were 2 down in 10 minutes.
Oh.
Dennis Wise penalty and Mark Hughes, and Isaiah scored one just on the stroke of half time. Peter and Love got the equaliser in the second half. So it would have been at Blackburn, either at Blackburn or at QPR, that Isaiah wore the purple. Purple and lilac, I think it was the official title.
Yeah, it's in that corner behind me. You can't see it because it's quite dark in that corner.
Ah, right. Right.
His is long sleeve, which you couldn't buy off the shelf.
Excellent.
So,
anything else to report?
No, you've got here about talking about 1939 pink.
Oh, I think we'll save that for another day because it's quite a long one. Should we save that for another day?
We're doing teasers now. I like that, Jim.
Yes.
Obviously, we got. Well, we don't know what's going to happen, do we? Because Bristol City, we're doing this at the same time that Bristol City are playing against Port Vale, so we don't even know if we've got a game at the weekend, do we?
It's 0-0 at the moment.
Oh, is it? So
we're into the second half.
Right. So we could be playing. We might not be playing. I don't know what's best. Because if we don't play, Ipswich will have played 3 times before we play. I think that's right. So that'll be interesting.
Oh dear. Well, they're drawing 0-0 in the second half at the moment to Hull.
Oh, that's all right. Well, let's hope it stays that way. But that's been fascinating. Some fantastic emails from Kevin Shannon, Martin Higgins, Andrew Gray, and Jeff Cowley, and it's great that you can share these memories, and it is fantastic. And it's interesting how different they all are, aren't they? There's no doubt that we could talk about a game where we'd take something different from it that somebody else may have not remembered. And like you say, you remember the Man City game really well, how great it was. And there's Tommy Hutch who played in it. Not a clue.
No, that's strange, isn't it? Really
but we said that because they play in so many games. You know, it's just one of those things. You'll remember that game because it is memorable to you. But for a player, it's probably just another game, unless they've probably scored a hat trick or something.
Yes, and of course, it's a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh yes, it is.
It's a hell of a long time. It's over 50 years ago. No, it's not 50 years next year. But the other thing I liked about Kevin, you can tell he's a writer, can't you? He's a very good writer.
And talking about 50 years, of course, it's 50 years of this scarf here. Look. Very
good. Yes. Oh, the Admiral logo on there.
Yeah, with the players' photos on the back, Jim.
Wow, I've never seen that before.
Maybe that should go in the archive when we get the museum.
I think it should, yes. I think it should.
It's even got a fag burn in it as well.
Sign of the times, isn't it?
It was, wasn't it? Well, brilliant. I enjoyed that tonight. Absolutely fantastic.
And the final bit of good news is,
what's that?
We might have, as a result of Saturday and bumping into a few former players, we might have a few guests for the podcast coming up.
That'd be great. That will be great.
I won't mention any names, but I think we might have a few guests in the coming weeks.
It's always good to get an insight from the players or staff or management or. I mean, we've had all sorts on, haven't we? Owners, of course, and it's interesting because I'll tell you the little bits and bobs that we have no idea happened.
Yes,
because we all like to think we do know what's happening, but we haven't got a clue half the time, have we?
No.
Basically. Before we go, quickly, the club accounts. Did you look at them at all? Did you?
I did, yes, yeah, and I thought they weren't. On the face of it, they didn't look too clever, but. When you strip out, comparing it to the previous year, but when you strip out the money we made from the sale of Vic and Gus, it's not dissimilar to the previous year, and it shows that there's been investment in the club, And if we go up, and I'm pretty sure we will, that's the money we're going to earn in the top flight from broadcasting will wipe those losses out very, very quickly. Interesting accounts, yeah.
Yeah, the question I'd love to ask is, does anybody make money out of football apart from footballers? Because
No.
it doesn't feel like anybody else does. No. Maybe agents and footballers make all the money.
No, the people who make money are the people who buy the big clubs and sell it after 3 or 4 years or longer even. Abramovich made billions. I'm sure that the man who owns Spurs, Joe Lewis, I'm sure that when him or his family do sell Spurs, it'll be for a vast multiple of what he paid for it. And the same with Arsenal's and the Liverpool owners, who the man from Boston, they bought Liverpool for a song really, and it's worth 3 or 4 billion now. The Newcastle, they bought Mike Ashley, sold it for a song really to the Saudis, but it's worth a hell of a lot more now. So those clubs do make money of it, but generally no. You need to be in the Premiership to make decent money.
Wow.
Don't you?
And Doug King couldn't we? If he gets promoted, if he decides to sell, he'd make plenty. On his investment, and fair play to him. Somebody took a gamble, and at the minute it looks like it's working, which is fantastic for us. We'll be back possibly next week or the week after with another episode. This is episode 61, I believe. You can contact Jim at clarryborton@gmail.com. That's scrolling at the bottom if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not, then you're going to have to just remember it. So Jim at clarryborton@gmail.com.
And look at our website, skybluearchive.com.
Brilliant. And there's links to other episodes, I think, on there, isn't there, from there?
Yeah.
Right. So good night, Jim. And hopefully, I don't know if I want a game at the weekend or not. Or just wait for another home match next week against Preston. I'm not sure.
Yes.
It's one of those, isn't it? Right then. I'll see you soon.
Good night.
Good night.
Radio Company business. Thank you very much.
Thank you.